countries are rated as to poverty level by indicators, how long somebody lives. Maybe in Haiti they live to be 46. I'm an old man in Haiti. I'm 57. I'm far past the lifespan, which is 46 or 48. Maybe in the Dominican Republic, the lifespan is 60. Still not great by our standards. You measure infant mortality. You know, of everybody that dies in Haiti on a normal day, half are children under 5 years old. And most of it is not access to clean water and getting gastroenteritis or pneumonias and not getting a medicine that would cost 4 cents a dose here in the United States. But their mortality level is also very high. Unemployment in Haiti is 80%. Maybe in Dominican Republic it's 50%. It's not great. In other words, if you look at the indicators of Dominican Republic, they're really not great. It's a very poor country. You don't understand that because tourism is enormous there and the resorts are fabulously developed there. But for the ordinary Dominican person, it's not the way that it is. So it's not like getting to the promised land if you can get there. Also, there's a long, difficult history between Dominican Republic and Haiti, which has been conflictual. We also have such relationships with countries. They happen in life. But it's not so easy for Dominicans to integrate in Haiti, and it's not so easy for Haitians to integrate in the Dominican Republic. So it's not exactly the best source of help in the first place, and there are complicated situations besides, But it's a good question because we have to think sideways to answer it. I want to give you another example of thinking sideways. So few people, half the kids in the country are in school. And when a poor mother is able to get her child into high school, that is quite a feat. Now let me ask you a simple question. The child from the slums who made it to high school, where do you think they do their homework? Where do you think they study? There's no lights where they live. There's no room to sit down where they live. Do you want to know where poor kids study when they make it to high school? You see them like herds. And wherever there is a street light that is on in the city, they are all under that street light till 11, 12, midnight, 1 in the morning studying. But of course what happens is nobody has power very long, and you can be sure sometime during that session that block is going to go off. And that whole herd is going to put out their feelers and find what part of the city has power, and they're going to walk to that part of the city, and they're going to sit under those streetlights to study. When those kids graduate high school, they deserve a 5-star medal and a standing ovation because their getting to the goal is a lot harder than for the privileged person who has lights at home, who has a desk, who can put on earphones, and who is exempt from work of the household in order to study, I know some of you have read or heard the stories of our burials of the dead, and the morgue is a despicable place, but let's think sideways again for a minute. You're living in a shack somewhere, and during the night your father dies. What do you do with him? You think you call 911? You think you call the police? Your father stays there in that little shack with all of the kids and with you all night long. And what are you going to do tomorrow? You have no car. You don't know anybody that has a car. Are you going to pay double fare and sit him up in the public transportation and bring him over to the city morgue? What do you do? People have to pay somebody with a wheelbarrow, and a bigger wheelbarrow that they call a burette, and you pay somebody $10, and this is how your father goes from your home all the way to the city morgue across town. It's terrible. It's humiliating. But the worst thing is if you ever even had an idea of what it's like inside of there, with the dead on top of each other, rotting, it's unbelievable what it's like. Where do you think a mother goes if she has to come and identify a dead child or a dead husband? The mother goes there. It's not like here, where it's prepared, stainless steel, the body is cleaned, soft music, a psychologist just down the hall. You have to go here to this cave of the dead and look at and find your loved one in a pile. these are all things about poverty people don't think of. You know, the studying under the streetlights and the eating one meal every 2 or 3 days, and having to deal with your dead loved ones this way. It's why it's so humiliating, you know, poverty, and so denigrating. It's a terrible, terrible thing. But that question helped us think sideways in that point. You know, it was a good question.
Hello, welcome to Let's Talk. I'm Salley Gibney. Have you ever noticed when you listen to the news and there's so much going on in the world and so much need, and do you ever wonder what you could do to make a difference? If you're like me, you think, gee, I wish I could. I wish there was something I could do. But then I get busy with my life and I just keep going. My guests today are people who don't just keep going with their lives. They're people who have been and are making a huge difference in our world. I'm so happy to have with me Ann Ehret. Hi, Ann. How are you?
Sally.
Phil Ehret, thank you
Hi,
for
Sally.
coming. And Jen Wright, thank you for coming. Would each of you share just a little bit about yourselves?
Sure.
And then we'll talk about what you're doing.
Okay. Well, my life started in Shanghai, China, where I was
Really?
born just as the communists were about to take over Shanghai. And so at 3 months of age, we moved to Hong Kong, lived there for a year and a half before came back to the U.S. and grew up in Delaware, and then went to college in Western Massachusetts at Smith College, where I met the good-looking man to my right.
Oh, and he is a good-looking man.
Yes. And then I trained as a teacher, and I've taught for 30 years.
Wow.
As first special ed, and then I specialized in reading instruction, particularly
neat.
structured language.
Here in Vermont?
Yeah, well, I started in Pennsylvania when he was in dental school, and then continued here in Vermont at Mount Anthony Middle School.
Oh, neat.
And retired 3 years ago, just in time to take care of my now 4.5-year-old grandson.
Isn't it the best being a Grammy?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Part-time, and
Yeah.
now
that's
we've got
nice.
a new little granddaughter due in another month and a half.
Oh, that's exciting.
yeah,
Very
very exciting.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yes. Phil, tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. I was born in Boston. My mother came from Nova Scotia. My dad's parents from Germany, so our family hadn't been in the country long. And I went to high school there at the Latin school, which was difficult. It was very difficult.
Oh, I'll bet.
2/3 of every class failed out. And that's where I learned how to work. And I was lucky enough to get into Dartmouth to college. And then after Dartmouth, spent 4 years in the Navy. It was while I was in the Navy that one morning Ann said, "Did you ever think about being a dentist?" And when I thought
Really?
about it, I thought, I think she has something. So I went on to dental school after the Navy and did a residency in Pennsylvania. And then we came to Vermont and had a career of 33 years as a dentist here.
The best dentist in the whole wide world.
Oh, thank you, Sally.
Jen, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I was actually born in Colorado, but moved to Vermont when I was in kindergarten. And that's where I've been ever since. I actually live in Rutland, and I graduated from Mill River Union High School in 2005. I went to school in New York City at Wagner College, and got a BA in International Affairs and French Studies.
Wow.
And during college, that's really when I discovered my passion for helping people in the world, and I think that's what we're going to talk about today. So,
Absolutely. And I remember you when you were that college student talking about what you wanted to do and how you followed through on that. You all have been just amazing in what you have done and where you go and what you do. And could you share with us a little bit, Ann?
About being in Haiti.
Yes,
and,
yes,
yeah.
please.
I might defer to Phil because he has a good introduction of how
Okay.
that connection, because he's the one who really made the
Got you
connection
started.
first and
Yeah.
got us started.
And also, there are other volunteer things that you do.
Yes, I think I was particularly lucky that when I was growing up, we'd go to Nova Scotia and visit our relatives, my mother's relatives there, and there were so many men who had time for young boys in ways related to their work. And that was part of my learning to give back. And also, while I was at the Latin school, a former head of the math department at the Latin school retired, lived around the corner, and he made it his business to help the kids in the neighborhood learn.
Oh, wow.
So I think between the two of them, the Nova Scotians and
That
the
example, it stuck with
retired
you.
teacher, that really stuck with
Yeah.
me. Was I to answer something more on
No,
that?
that was great. But now the volunteer work that you've been
Okay.
doing.
In 3 areas principally. We always gave as much as we could to people in terms of their dentistry here at the office. I've worked for a long time in Rotary as a volunteer in the area of youth exchange. That's taken a lot of my time. Sometimes it took longer than my day job
Yeah.
in a week. And then finally, the opportunity to go to Haiti came in 2003.
And how did that come about?
That came about because I was serving on the missions committee at First Church here in the village, First Congregational, and there was a lady serving on that committee, Bonnie Franklin, and she had a buddy from nursing school, and her friend's name was Emily Smack, and Emily was director of the Diocesan Office of Haitian Ministries in Connecticut, and they funneled, I believe at that time, $750,000 of goods and services to Haiti on an annual basis. They were doing a
Wow.
lot of work. They were teaming up Catholic parishes with Catholic parishes and other organizations with projects in Haiti. And at the time, Emily was trying very hard to get a group from our church to go to Haiti. It's important for them to have people see what they're actually doing.
Right.
And I knew that for years we'd been donating money to a girls' orphanage in Port-au-Prince every year, year after year. And I thought, well, if we're doing this, I should go and see how our money's being spent.
Right.
And I thought when they mentioned that it was going to be a hands-on trip that perhaps I'd have an opportunity to do dentistry. But I was not right on that. What they meant was we'd have time to pick up the children at the hospital for toddlers and infants and just hold them because there are not enough people to hold those kids.
And that's so important.
They need that.
They need to be cuddled.
And we rubbed lotion on the bodies of the people in the home for the dying. That's what they meant by hands-on. So they did make sure that I met Ron and Ronnie Pruz. Ron is a pediatric dentist from Marquette University, a professor of dentistry there. And they made sure I met them when I was in Haiti. It was just by chance that they were there at the same time. And I said to Ron, I don't want to be presumptuous, but if there's something I can do to help, I'd be willing to try. And he was expressionless almost. And I didn't know why at the time. But that led to the first dental visit to Haiti, and I was there only a week, and it was long enough. It was so intense.
Wow.
And then within a half year, I was back for 2 weeks. And I think it was after that visit that Ron said to me, I've been looking for somebody like you for years, but any time somebody came and said, I'd like to go to Haiti and work, they never followed through.
Wow.
So he was expressionless
So-
because he couldn't imagine that
you
I
were
would
going to
follow
continue
through.
with it. And so what did you do? What type of dentistry did you do there?
It's really basic dentistry. We don't have the capacity to do crowns or bridges or dentures to replace missing teeth. What we do is help people who are in pain by extracting teeth if we have to, and we restore the teeth that we can save. And our focus is to help the poorest people in Haiti, those who have the least.
And what ages? Children and adults?
Children and adults. I actually saw my very youngest patient ever in Haiti. They brought a little baby to me who was less than an hour old because she was born with a loose tooth.
Oh, really?
This just tiny, beautiful little baby. And all the way up to very old people.
Yeah, yeah. Now, how did you come to meet Father Rick? Will you tell us a little bit about him?
Well, Ron actually started a dental clinic at an orphanage in the mountains south of Port-au-Prince. And that was within an organization. The organization was called NPH, which means Nos Pequeños Hermanos, our little brothers and sisters. And Father Rick was the national director of that organization in Haiti. The organization actually had orphanages in several countries in Central, South America, and the Caribbean. And you can't be there very long without meeting Father Rick. And he really impressed me. He impresses many. He's a visionary. He's very bright. And he went to Haiti as a young man to start the orphanage. A priest sent him there to start the orphanage. And how we met him, he was just there. Did you want me to say a little bit more about what he was doing?
Sure, yeah.
All right. He got the orphanage off the ground, And as kids started coming up, he noticed that so many were malnourished, they were ill, and he said, these kids need a doctor more than they need a priest. So he came back to the United States and he went to medical school.
Wow. Can
And
you imagine?
when he became a doctor, he went back down and founded the Children's Hospital in Petchenville, just south of Port-au-Prince. And he was one of the doctors on staff. So here he was saying Mass at 7 in the morning and then going
Going to
ahead
the
to work as a
hospital.
physician. It allowed him to work 7 days a week, which I think he needs anyway. And he just kept doing more and more. He began to start schools because he could see kids in the slum had nothing to do. They were sitting on the sidewalks. So he has now, how many schools in?
I believe it's 28
20
primary schools,
Wow.
In the slums.
at least 8,000 students. Yeah.
And there's a
Really?
high school that the Artists for Peace and Justice founded with his help. They went to him and he helped them bring that about. And he has a factory so that the kids who've been through the orphanage can work, so that they can find meaningful employment. And there are almost 1,000 on staff at the in the whole
all the
organization. Haitian
Wow.
people, because Father Rick wants Haitians to do this and for the
Yeah.
Haitian economy to be strong. It's just amazing. He doesn't stop.
Oh, can you imagine? I mean, talk about a visionary, but a visionary who takes action.
Yes,
Yes.
I mean,
exactly.
huge, huge.
If he wants to blow off steam, he's driving a forklift unloading a container in the warehouse.
What a guy, what a guy. I know that we have some clips of him too, don't we, that we're
Yes.
going to be showing through the show,
Yeah.
which is really, really wonderful. We'll get back to Father Rick in a little bit. Jen, tell us about you. I remember this college student who was on my show talking about how she had been to Africa and was going to go back one day and going to start an orphanage.
Yes.
Well,
Wow.
fill us in.
Well, I actually went to Africa when I was in high school,
Oh,
just
okay.
as a senior, and I went to Zimbabwe and volunteered at an orphanage there, and it just completely changed my life. I just, when you meet those kids and you hear their stories and you see the need, it changes your perspective, and there's just no going back from that. So I went to college feeling inspired, knowing that I wanted to do something, but I had no idea what I could do. There's millions of orphans in the world, and I didn't really see how me as one person could really make a difference. But I had Africa in my blood at that point, and I had pictures of the children plastered on my dorm room wall. I was nicknamed by my advisor Africa Girl because any paper that I had, I tried to shift it to some kind of Africa theme so I could study it and learn more about it. And finally, when I was a sophomore, I just knew I had to go back, and I convinced my roommate at the time to go to Kenya through another volunteer program, and we volunteered at an orphanage. This one was state-run and just in such disrepair. The kids were not taken care of well.
Oh,
It was understaffed. They probably had 5 staff people for 140 kids.
Wow.
So they were going to the bathroom everywhere. It was awful, and it was very difficult for me to see because I had been at such a wonderful home, a private home in Zimbabwe. So I knew that it could be better, even with just a little reorganization. So through that experience, I met the right people and had this moment where I said, well, I knew that God was calling me to build a children's home somehow. So
Wow.
I came back. I was just a sophomore at the time, and I was in my dorm room researching how to start a nonprofit on my computer. And 7 months later, with the help of really wonderful people, we were incorporated. And by the time I was a senior, we had our 501c3. So we really have spent...
Which is not a simple task.
It is not a simple task
absolutely
at all. But I knew it was meant to be because we were granted...
kept going.
We kept going, and from our filing date of our application, it took 3 months, and we were accepted, which is pretty unheard of. So I knew all of this was meant to be because there was something greater guiding me and guiding the whole process.
But you were open to it. I think that so many times, many of us have an opportunity, but, we don't take that opportunity. But you did. You did.
I just knew it was what I was supposed to do. And nothing was going to stop me. And there have certainly been challenges, but you know, I'm so happy and blessed because right now we have our first home in Kenya, and we have 47 children, and we just opened a high school, and we have 3 grades in that school.
But it wasn't all that easy, was it?
No, it wasn't. There were so many challenges.
Tell us a little bit about the challenges that you faced in this.
It really, the biggest challenge was learning about the culture and working with people who think very differently from the way that we may think in the U.S., which isn't a bad thing. It's just an adjustment, and you have to alter your perspective and not accommodate to the point where you're letting things go by the wayside, but you really, it's a careful, you have to navigate carefully.
Balance, I'm
and
sure.
I unfortunately was working with some people who ended up not being very honest, and I had to stop working with them, and through that, you know, I almost lost our land and everything, but you know, I fought for it, and I stood up for it, and everything's fine now. So,
but you actually went over there and purchased property. I mean,
yes.
Here is this young girl going by herself, and you have this dream.
Yeah.
And it was quite an amazing step.
Yeah. We had to first start an NGO. So we started the organization in the U.S., and then we have to get registered in Kenya, because you have to be registered as an organization to purchase land. So, you know, we did that process, which was very difficult, trying to even find out what you have to do. And then we purchased the land, and I learned a lot about how you actually are supposed to purchase land from what I was told when I first started the process. So it's been a journey full of learning opportunities.
I hope you're documenting all this. You
I
are
am.
right.
I see a book in my future, but the story is continuing. So it's just been a wonderful journey, and there's been blessings and challenges, but I think there's learning opportunities
How is
in all our challenges.
Where you're located now in Kenya, is it safe?
It is
you,
safe.
as a young woman going there.
It is safe. We are about 3 hours northwest of Nairobi, depending on how bad the roads are. Sometimes it takes longer, but it's very safe where we are. A lot of the violence that you hear about on the news is in the northern part and the eastern part of Kenya, and in the capital of Nairobi. So there's risk in traveling there, but you know, I think there's risk in traveling anywhere in the world, and I'm not going to let fear of what could happen stop me from doing what I need to do. So
you've certainly come a long way, baby. And I know we have a clip that we're going to be showing. I'm sure there are so many incredible stories that you have that could just melt our hearts. And now tell me, what do you do when you go to Haiti?
Well, my primary responsibility is to be Phil's dental assistant. So I've had enough training to be able to do the work that we do there, and so that's the primary responsibility. And then, starting maybe 5 years ago or so, people started talking with me some in the evenings, we've got these kids who are having trouble learning to read. Do you have any ideas what we can do? And so I just listened to, what they were saying and try to get at least a little bit of a window into the language. And it's an interesting, Creole's a wonderful language. It's very phonetic, it's very predictable. The only difficulty is they do these contractions that 5 words will get down to 5 letters. That's an exaggeration.
Do they speak very rapidly?
Yeah. And schools are taught traditionally in French, and so it's quite challenging for some of these students, who come with very difficult situations into the orphanage home there. And so for them to not only have to learn to read, but to learn to read in a language they've never spoken, because they've never spoken French. And so we've worked then with having an openness to doing a first step of learning Creole, learning to read in Creole, and because that's the language they speak.
The language that they speak, right.
And then Creole is the vocabulary is largely based on French, but the structure of the language is more from the West African tribes. But like I say, it's very predictable, and so that. So then, when I retired from teaching 3.5 years ago, the next time we were down, they asked, could you just stay a little later and work with us on some of these ideas of what we can do with the reading. So, I've done that some, and it's really been very fulfilling and heartening to see both the willingness to do teaching in Creole, which
that they were open
took
to
a
do
step
that.
Definitely. There, and for their special ed population primarily, this is, and for the very young kids.
Now, is this the school, Father Rick's school, that you're talking about?
It's the school that's within the original orphanage.
I see.
That was founded almost 30 years ago now.
Wow.
And so that's the main one that I've worked in. I've talked with the folks since the earthquake. There's been another school that they opened up down close to Port-au-Prince from children that were orphaned as part of the earthquake.
Now, how soon after the earthquake did you go down to Haiti?
Well, we were scheduled to go just a few months afterwards, and then
I had a medical issue come up and I suddenly couldn't go. So we couldn't go until the next February or March, I think.
Yeah, so it had been a year.
The devastation must be. Talk to us a little bit about Haiti.
Well, it's a hard place. It's a very difficult place. And you have the beauty of this amazing landscape next to the horrible difficulty of trying to survive in Haiti. And so many people are just barely surviving. So after the earthquake, everything was worse for them. It seems that they make a little progress and then something happens, a hurricane, an earthquake, an uprising, something happens and they're knocked back. I think overall progress is being made, but it's still very difficult. So it needs an economy. Haiti needs an economy in order to thrive. And people in different ways try to help an economy get going. Father Rick does it by creating a factory organization where they do bakery things, pasta, bread, etc. There's an automobile mechanic part of it. There's a making cinder block part of it, so that they can build houses for the kids who will be in the high school, who don't have parents, but there will be a place for them to stay. He's always trying to find a way to improve the economy, and there are others too. Microcredit organizations. There are other people investing down there. Not all NGOs stay. Father Rick's organization stays. It's there for the long haul, and therefore it allows some stability in Haiti. Did I answer that?
What's it like walking down the street with him? Does everyone know him?
Well, everybody does know him. I think one of the most amazing experiences I had in Haiti was going into the the darkest slums, and everybody knew him. I don't think he worries about his safety for a moment. As you were saying, you don't let things
You don't
stop
think about
you.
that, yeah.
Well, I think they think about it. They're very aware.
They're cautious,
but
are
they're
they?
not going to let it stop. Doing what they feel is their calling.
Needs to
just
be
as you
done.
say.
That's
I
a
am
better way to
aware
put it.
about it. You know, I
So they're
take precautions to make sure that I'm
absolutely.
safe. But
Yeah, you're not foolish.
yeah,
Yeah.
so you just have to be careful.
Right, right.
I
Be smart. in your
I just want to, now, you all went to Kenya with Jen, didn't
Yeah.
you?
Yes,
we
Yes,
did.
let's talk about this.
Yeah, it's a
This is
small
just
world.
sort of amazing.
So I think we met at a fundraiser up in Rutland.
Yeah.
And I was taking a team to Kenya in 2012, and they joined us, and it was just wonderful to have them there. Phil was able to do some dental exams on our kids. We weren't set up to do any real work, but the church in Manchester, your church, donated money for us to take some of the worst cases to the dentist in Kenya.
Wow.
So it was really wonderful, and we just had a great trip. That's one of my favorite parts of my work, is taking people there and opening their eyes up to the situation and sharing the kids' stories with them, because it changes your perspective, and you're never the same. no
Now,
matter where
some
you are.
people, I've heard people say that rather than spending the money to go to Kenya or to go to Haiti, to donate the cost of a ticket towards your organization or for Father Rick. Do you think that it's very important for people to go?
Personally, I think it's important for people to go. You know, I do think, well, I could do this and this with that money. But when people go and they meet the kids, they become invested in what we're doing. And many of our greatest volunteers are people who have been there and who have developed relationships with the kids. They become sponsors. They share the stories with their own friends, who then become donors. So it really is important for people to be there so they can share what we're doing. It's
And then
just
take
very
it another
important.
step further.
Yes,
take
exactly.
It in, which really does make a
So.
lot of sense. How do
It's
you
as
feel
though you
about
have to feel it yourself before
Yeah.
you can fully comprehend and then take action. One of the things I remember so clearly was that one of our group of visitors to Kenya was, I think, in college, and she and the other girls in the group were really close to the kids during that whole time we were there. And I remember the night we were beginning to be on our way back to back home, she was having her supper in the restaurant with the rest of us, and she began to say, "It's so unfair what's happening to these kids, that they were abandoned, or that something
Yeah.
happened to their parents, or that there was abuse, or whatever it was." And her emotions were right there on the surface.
Yeah.
And you could tell how strongly she was impacted by the experience.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're talking about in terms of it being valuable to go somewhere, even though it takes dollars that could have been spent in other ways.
In other
You need
ways.
both.
You
Yeah.
do, you do. I know going to Bangladesh was an incredible experience for me, and you connect, especially the children.
Yes.
The children really do tug on your heartstrings, Share with us a couple of your experiences there.
Well, do you want to talk about? Yeah.
I think one of the moving ones for me has been to go down into the slums and to examine the kids. We might pick a school or two and go to the school and examine 100 kids in the morning, say, and then go over to another place, one of the medical clinics, street clinics, and the word gets out instantly that the dentists are there.
Wow.
And people just start showing up. People in pain start appearing. And we schedule them. The kids can come on these mornings, the adults can come on these afternoons, and we begin to see them and take care of them. And that feels powerful to me, because we're going into their homes, into their home areas ourselves, and finding them and bringing them back. When we work at the orphanage, most often we're
Stay
there,
right
and
there.
somebody finds
Yeah.
them for us, and
Uh-huh.
they bring them in. I think that's
Yeah.
what's
Yeah,
one of the
it's-
impactful things for me.
Yeah, it's a very interesting difference between like going into the schools where we were doing the exams. It's a really makeshift situation, just like we did in Kenya. But then in the new hospital that has been built in Port-au-Prince, there's a very nice 3-chair dental clinic.
Wow.
So that and Father Rick arranges the transportation so that the
They
people
do come, and they can come. And it's actually being in a dentist chair.
And it's being in a dentist chair, and lots of times
Yeah.
they fall asleep because it's the most comfortable place they've been. And, you know, and it opens their eyes also to that. And then in the orphanage, there's a chair that it's probably been 30 years maybe since that was set up there. So it's rudimentary, but it's still a dental chair, and it's still a dental drill and all that.
So they're still having that experience and being taken
so it's
care of. Tell us about the children in your orphanage.
They are just amazing. It's been such an incredible experience to watch many of them grow. I've known some of them for at least 3 to 4 years now, and you know, I can share one story of a girl named Irene. I met her for the first time in 2011. She had just come to the orphanage, and she has HIV. She was small, and you could just tell she...
How old was she?
I think she was in 8th grade. I'm not exactly sure of her age, but she was in middle school at that time. She just had this really rough exterior. You could tell that she'd been through something, and she had built up some walls, and it was hard to get in and underneath and to get to know her. But through the years, you can see how she's become more trustful. She has opened up a lot more, and she's really blossomed. And she actually just finished her last year in high school. And on my last trip there, it was April of 2014, I was having a conversation with her, and she was just laughing and joking and, you know, talking about how she wants to be a writer, and just, and then she starts saying to me, she says, in a very serious, not Irene moment, she says, I really didn't think I was going to make it, but because I've been here, I'm alive. She thought that she was going to die.
Yeah.
But
well, they see death.
They do.
You know, I mean,
It's very real to them.
we have absolutely no conception of what these children have seen or who they've lost.
Here,
you
death
know?
is pretty much hidden.
Yeah.
There, it's very much in the open. Bodies on the roadside.
Wow. You can't, I mean, you know, it's so hard to comprehend that, you know, how many children now are in the orphanage?
We have 47. We have girls and boys, and the youngest is 3. His name is Elias, and we think he's 3. He was actually abandoned, and the police found him on the streets, and the children's office couldn't find a place for him to go, so he was actually living in a jail cell. Because they just didn't have anywhere for him, so we took him in. And he has actually adopted the manager of the home is his mom. So he follows her around, and it's just sweet to see their relationship develop, and he's just very funny. The kids.
Now, most of the children, what are their ages?
Most of them, there's actually quite a bit of a range. We have a good group, probably 10 or so in high school, and then the rest are, range from 3 to 12. The oldest we have is about 19. We usually have them stay with us till they finish school, their last year in high school, and then we're trying to develop a program where they will either work in our home in one of our income projects so they can learn about business, while we try and get them into college. So we actually have 3 girls starting college. These are our first 3 girls, and we're just very excited for them.
Oh, yeah.
So you can really see how what we're doing is impacting their lives. And
absolutely.
So it's amazing. They're so funny. They just laugh and play soccer, and you can just tell that they're really happy.
And they're safe.
And they're safe.
You know, probably for some of them, for the first time in their lives, they're safe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Even before the devastating 2010 earthquake, Haiti's people struggled to survive in a country ridden with challenges and injustices.
Joblessness is 70%, illiteracy is 70%, average annual income is about $1 a day. There's open sewers, sanitation non-existent. So all of the health problems that come with that kind of poverty, gastroenteritis, worms, parasites, amoebas, they're all rampant here. Sicknesses that come from living in close quarters are rampant here. Most people don't live to be 50 years old. And half the deaths in the country every day are children under 5. Half the deaths. We see severe suffering in children, severe.
In a country where hundreds die each day from curable diseases, St. Damien Pediatric Hospital is proud to have cared for more than 500,000 suffering children since it began in 1987. It moved operations to a new state-of-the-art 75,000 square foot facility in 2006, quickly earning the reputation of being Haiti's premier children's hospital.
We have a huge outpatient department so that we're not disturbing the economy of the family, because when a child's in the hospital, the mother is in the hospital. When the mother's in the hospital, 6 other children aren't eating, and she can't do whatever work she can find to do to have some kind of an income, and everything falls down. If the children have to come in, then we have general wards, infectious disease, non-infectious disease, program for malnourished children, for children with tuberculosis. Those are huge problems.
But when the earthquake struck, followed by a cholera epidemic later that year, all of Haiti's problems compounded exponentially. So did the need for care. St. Damien had no choice but to respond, and the number of patients served each year jumped from 30,000 to 80,000.
The first huge change in the hospital is the maternity and the neonatology programs, which started because places that had those programs were crushed in the earthquake. So we tried in a small way to start receiving women with problem pregnancies, diabetes, hypertension, preeclampsia, in order to help them through to the end. And then, of course, once the child is born, very often premature, then you have to start neonatology. The cancer program also has taken a boost for the same reason. In the absence of other centers, our own cancer program has enlarged.
The surgery program also had to expand.
And we've taken advantage of different surgeons that were here during the earthquake time to form rotations of volunteer surgeons.
The public health and HIV program has increased its support to more communities and administers care to thousands of children and mothers living with HIV. All in all, the hospital has a 120-bed inpatient capacity, not including about 20 triage beds in the emergency room, which are almost always full. The sheer size and scope of St. Damien's programs is impressive enough, but the advanced technology it uses to care for its patients is almost unheard of in this country. One example is this digital X-ray machine, which allows physicians to consult with other medical experts around the globe and significantly reduces exposure to radiation. St. Damien has been a true port in the storm for Haiti's poorest families, somehow always finding a way to stretch resources and maintain a new standard of care. But the needs in this country just keep growing. Some 60% of Haitians have no access to even the most basic healthcare services, and the country continues to have the highest mortality rate in the Western Hemisphere for children under 5. Preventable conditions like malnutrition, diarrhea, malaria, respiratory infections, tuberculosis, and HIV/AIDS are the leading causes of death. While St. Damien has always been committed to treating Haiti's poor with an unprecedented standard of care, the numbers just keep increasing. Without a greater base of support for our programs, we run the risk of having to turn people away when they have no other options. People whose tenacity and strength are often their only resources.
It's absolutely amazing to me the drive of the people to push ahead in the face of so much sorrow and in front of obstacles which are so insurmountable, to still try to do the right thing for themselves and for their children. And that is a real heroic story. So we can only encourage people who are in a position to be generous to please don't forget us here. When your dollar comes to NPH, you can be sure it goes to good work.
I wonder if each of you would just share what, how, as I said before and when we were opening, we all want to do something. We all want to make a difference. We all want to. But how do you actually, you did it. You actually went forward and did it. What would you say to people who just don't know what they can do or that they can do something?
I guess, a lot is just being open as possibilities present in your life, and being open to that click, when something does fit.
Yeah.
And, there might be a possibility, and why not investigate and see?
Yeah.
And I guess, a favorite little hymn of mine is all God's children got a place in this world, and so everybody doesn't have to do the same things.
Right.
Some can just clap their hands, and that's a beautiful present right there too. So
Yeah. Just simple acts of kindness is a place to start.
absolutely.
And then see where it takes you.
right, right.
What do you think, Phil?
Well, I have to say I agree completely with Anne that the opportunities come to you. You don't really have to look for them. If your eyes and ears are open, you'll know that the opportunities are there. I think it's always been that way for me, whether it was being asked to come work in youth exchange or
And
to
tell us
go
a
to
little
Haiti.
bit about the youth exchange that you were involved in.
Sure.
Because you really, how many years did you do that?
Oh gosh, it was.
Both of you. it was the two of you,
Well,
wasn't
we've
it?
hosted 20 kids in our home over the years, kids from all over the world.
Wow.
And
Now, for how long a period of time do you host
Usually,
them?
we try in our program to have 2 or 3 host families. So you're hosting for a portion of the year, maybe 3.5 months of the school year,
I
most of the
see.
time. Although we did host one boy from Argentina for the entire school year.
Uh-huh.
But usually it's less than a year. And besides the hosting, we ran the program in our Rotary Club, our local Rotary Club here in Manchester. And then somebody asked me if I would take on the job of helping the American kids in our southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire district to go overseas and work with them. And it's amazing to sit here at home and have an email come in from somebody in Japan or Turkey or wherever they're living, and to find out what they're doing. And after they finish the program, often years later they'll come back and say, this is what's going on in my life. And you know that their lives are different because they had this experience, and so
Yeah.
it's a very joyful thing.
Yeah. And you've always been open to whatever. I know, knowing you both.
Yeah, there
You,
may be things that have presented that we missed, but we've certainly been grateful for the ones we have
well, and,
been
and
able to be a
you've
part
certainly
of.
made a difference in many, many, many lives all over. And also as a dentist, you've taken care of many people who would not have been able to have the care had you not volunteered it for them. So,
Yes, and that's been important too. I mean, you have this strong feeling that it's important to give whatever you can to make things possible for people. It's not always easy.
No, no, and it's sort of putting yourself aside, or yourself or your own wishes. It's sort of stepping out of that box and being open to whatever comes.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jen?
I would agree with what Phil and Ann are saying, but for me, it was just about believing that I could do it and not letting people who doubted me,
The
into my
naysayers,
mind.
the naysayers.
Because I know people didn't believe that I could do this. They thought I was crazy or I'd just give up after a while. But once you have an inkling of the path that you're supposed to take, it's just a matter of following it and trusting that something bigger is guiding
It's
you.
happening, yeah. And if, what do they say, one door closes, a window opens, or,
Exactly.
you just,
Yeah.
you just keep going.
But it doesn't matter, your abilities or how much money you have. There's something for everyone to do to make this world a better place. And it may not be building an orphanage in Kenya, but even, like you said, small acts of kindness. It all matters, and we all have a role to play
And
a
each
purpose.
person matters.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which is so true, and I think we're going to.
Yeah, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
As Jen was talking, a Haitian saying came to mind is "Piti piti na rive," and that means little by little we arrive. So it means we keep taking those little steps and we don't stop. And then we
going
arrive.
towards becoming who we're meant to be.
Yes.
You know, which is really exciting. And there's so many opportunities. I mean, you three are just such an example to all of us. And you know what you've done is beyond belief. Really, I think each one of you are so special. But people here, there are a lot of things you can do within your own community to make
Exactly.
a difference, or support, or make a donation toward towards the orphanage. Or now with Father Rick, people can make donations to his orphanage or to his school, or there is an
Sure.
organization where, and I think that's we never take away the importance of that as well. You know,
Right.
so if you're not able to go somewhere, you can be part of what's going on
Absolutely.
by
Yes.
making a donation towards that. And
There are
I
so
think
many
that-
ways to help. And there are so many people here in our community who are not recognized for all that they give day in, day out.
Yeah, we have a very caring community.
We
as
do.
I'm sure Rutland does as
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
and it's a wonderful gift
I
to
think
our
we all,
world.
and you feel better. You know, you feel good when you do something, when you
Yeah.
reach out in a way, and especially for the children and the seniors. You know, the
Right.
seniors as well. The children, both ends of the spectrum.
Yeah,
You know,
when you're saying you feel better when you do, it brings to mind, I believe it was the saying, something that Desmond Tutu had said about, when you give to others out of true compassion, that you experience a deep contentment that borders on ecstasy. So, I think there is that
Yeah.
feeling, and it can happen through what you do. It's your attitude, your spirit that you give to it that makes the difference, not the act.
yeah,
And so that spirit can be present
sure.
in many ways of
Absolutely.
contributing to an
Absolutely, and I
happening,
think,
yeah.
I think that every one of us can make a difference,
That's true.
and we do, one day at a time.
Yes.
You know, one step at a time. I'm just so excited to have you three here because you are three of my favorite people, and you're an example to all of us, each and every one of us, because you just, as I said, you had a dream and a goal, and you went towards it, and you kept going and kept going, and you'll be going back to Haiti.
This spring.
After
and
the
talk about
granddaughter's born.
talk about the equipment, bringing
The
the
dental
equipment.
equipment?
Yes, that's it.
Oh,
I think you
goodness.
have to tell that story.
Do you mean about the compressor we took or something else?
And then
Well,
getting it through,
Suction,
getting
yeah.
it through the.
we lost the only suction motor we had at the orphanage. It's just a small room that's for a dental clinic there, and we lost it, and it was dead. There was nothing we could do to repair it.
We tried duct tape. We tried everything.
We have a wonderful dental service person who took care of our equipment here in Manchester in the office, and he kept his eye open for a suction motor all year. And finally, I think it was February a year ago, he found one. There was a dentist who was changing out a certain kind of motor for a different kind of suction motor. We have to have one that doesn't use water at the orphanage because every drop has to be trucked up the mountain. So you can't waste any water. And he found one, and it was a dentist in Woodstock, I believe, who was changing it out. And our service person said, I know a dentist who has a need for a suction motor like that. Would you be willing to donate it? And he was. And we had the whole thing taken apart so we could put it with our luggage. I mean, it doesn't look like this belongs in luggage. And we got it to Haiti, and we took with us another dental service person who was willing to make the trip to Haiti to install it for us. And he was just so eager. While he was there, he was looking at everything. Is this working okay? Is this working okay? He fixed anything that needed help. And so without all those people, that never would have happened.
Yeah.
But now we have essentially a brand new suction motor that
Now,
hopefully
didn't
will
you have
last
to
for
get it
years.
through
Customs.
customs? I mean,
Yes, we did.
how did you do
And,
that?
Oh, with prayer.
Do it.
And yeah.
They're
Well,
saying, "What's this?"
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And there
And you
are
had
plenty
needles
of
and
people.
other things too that you.
Oh, we have to
Oh,
take all our
yeah.
supplies with us.
Oh
Yes.
gosh.
Yeah. Once, when I was teaching, I could only go for 1 week, and Phil usually went for 2 weeks. So there were some times when I was arriving a week after he had already been there, and that was one time when and my Creole is not as strong as Phil's, so yeah, they open up my suitcase and it's full of needles. And I'm trying to explain as best I can. And they're looking to see.
Yeah, who is this woman and what is she doing?
But luckily that went okay. And then with the suction, they were, I think, mostly trying to get a little extra money perhaps. But
Yes.
but we did
Perhaps.
get through. It just took a little longer.
Could you say something to us in Creole?
Qui dent fait mal? Which tooth hurts?
Oh,
And it's impactful to me that if you say that to a Haitian, you might get an answer like,
oh, many,
Yeah.
many teeth.
and then
hurt.
you're
Yeah.
wondering, where do I
Where's-
start?
You've
Yes.
seen a lot, haven't you? I mean, I think the poverty that you see, I know in Bangladesh, the poverty was overwhelming, in many areas, and you're never the same
No.
after you see how some people have to live.
And
you
how
know.
strong the spirit can be.
Yes, exactly.
You know.
And the spirit of love of family,
Mhm.
and of caring for each other, and love of country
Yes.
is something that, I saw in Bangladesh as well. So it's an amazing, amazing experience, and God bless you all for what you're doing, because you're all so special and wonderful and such an example to all of us. And I
Sally,
thank you for that.
can I add that it's just been amazing to me how many people, our dental patients, our friends, our church, have donated money to make it possible for us to do what we do. We may take care of our travel expenses and going there, but our supplies have almost always been covered by such
that neat?
generous
So-
people in our
So
community.
if people want to help, we'll have the websites on the screen. They can make donations.
Yes.
And you will take care of that. And of course,
Yes.
for Heal,
We do
raise the
accept
children. Yeah.
No, people also have been so generous, and it's
Yeah.
just amazing to see how it's spread so far that the blessings come from very unexpected
Yeah.
places. And
So if we're not able, people who aren't able to go, they can go in spirit. They can,
Absolutely.
and definitely.
Absolutely.
Now, we're getting down to that time. Is there anything you'd like to share as we close?
I guess there's a saying that a long-term volunteer in Haiti likes that I've embraced as well, and I hope I get it straight here now. His faith is like the bird that senses the oncoming of dawn and starts to sing while it's still dark.
Oh, I love it. We'll have to write that down. I think
so
that's
sorry.
mine.
I think
Is
it's
that-
mine.
Don't worry.
it's normally on
Phil,
silent.
do you have any closing?
I would just hope for the gift of being able to return to Haiti more times to do whatever we can there.
Yeah, and we hope you can too.
Thank you.
Jen?
I'm just thankful and blessed and in awe of where I am, and I'm so looking forward to the future because we have really great plans, and I have a very big vision, and I'm just trusting that, before I'm done.
I don't doubt
going to
for
be
a
even bigger.
minute that your vision isn't going to be fulfilled. I have seen this little girl go from here to here, and she's going there. I believe it. I believe it. I hope all of you have enjoyed this. It's been wonderful for me, and I think if one thing that we want to share is that each one of us can make a difference. Whatever you can do, for each of us to be open to whatever the possibilities are. And we are going to show some videos, and also there will be some websites on the screen. So if any of you want to get involved and want to help out, please do. And until next time, keep talking. Bye-bye.